Mm-hmm.
So let's go on and talk a little bit about one of my favorite topics, which is gambling, and what's going to be happening with our Thursday night football game. We've got the Indianapolis Colts at 5-3, rolling in to the Tennessee Titans at 6-2. This game is for the AFC Central division lead.
AFC South.
Sorry, AFC South division lead. My bad.
Mm-hmm.
AFC South the division lead, and I don't know. This could be a good game. This could be a really, really good game. What do you think of? What are you seeing here?
I'm saying finally this is a good game on Thursday night. I mean, God, it's been so brutal. Yeah. So finally we have two winning teams that are very promising to get into the playoffs. I mean, one of these teams is going to win their division, and the other one will most likely get in as a wild card. They're both tough, hard-nosed football teams. I think it's going to be a close matchup. I mean, I'm excited to watch it. Like, I don't know if you're going to put money on it or what you think is going to happen. Thursday night games are really difficult to predict coming off that short week. So, there's always questions there, but I'm just excited for an actual a good matchup on Thursday night football.
So, I have a service, which is sportstradingsystems.com. I provide picks to everyone who's on my newsletter and everyone that has joined our VIP service. I'll be honest with you, throughout the entire year, I haven't had one pick for Thursday night because the Thursday night games have been so lopsided and so bad that I haven't made one recommendation for one Thursday night game. And this week I may have to change that because I got to tell you, I see an advantage. And one of these teams that I see is much, much better than even their record says. And both these teams have good records.
Sure.
And both these teams have had high points throughout the season. But I believe that one of these teams is so much better than the other team. And let me just go over some of the numbers here really quick, just so you can see what's going on here.
Yeah.
We've got the Colts versus the Titans. The Titans are a 1.5 point favorite as of right now. I believe that line is going to move. I believe that line is going to move to a little closer to about a point. I think there's going to be a lot of money on the home team. The over-under is 48.5 points. And Michael, I have had my successes this year in football, and I have had some really, really bad plays on football. And every one of my poor decisions, every one of my poor recommendations, because I always tell people about my poor recommendations as well as my successful ones. All of my poor recommendations have been based off of the fact that the line makers have not caught up to the over-unders. And every time you go under, it's over. It has been, these games have been over at a clip of 74% of the time. So if you want to make some money and not do any thinking, for the next few weeks, you could probably lay on the overs and make yourself some money. Now, I will share that with everybody because that's just information that's out there if you just do a little bit of research. And the other thing I really like, the Titans are minus 130.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the Colts. The Colts are 4-4 against the spread in 2020. Tennessee has hit 5 of 8. It's hit the over in 5 of 8 of their games this year. I'm not going to say out loud who I'm playing, but if you listen to what I just said, you can pretty much figure it out. Like this is a parlay in the making right here of taking one team and figuring out the over and the under and putting them together and making yourself some money for Thursday night.
Sure, that sounds fair. And you might want to keep your cards close to your chest. That's fine. I'm more than willing to share the bets that I'm going to be doing. I mean, I'm playing against the book. I don't care. Everyone can get out there and make some money. So my two favorite prop bets for this game is going to be Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns. It's only minus 120. And Tannehill has just been so good this year. He could have potentially been on that MVP, possible MVP candidate, but he has not. He's only had one game where he hasn't thrown at least 2 touchdowns. That was way back in week 3. So he's always, looking for his receivers. Corey Davis has really come alive. So I like Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 touchdowns. I think he'll at least throw it in twice. And then I love AJ Brown, like just. In reality, in fantasy, A.J. Brown is a tremendous football player. He's one of the toughest wide receivers that we have in the league.
That dude's a man.
Absolutely. And his his line for anytime receiving touchdown is plus 105. And I think that, so they're saying, I mean, it's more than likely that he has 6 receiving touchdowns in 6 games that he's played. And he has 5 in a row, 5 games in a row where he's called a touchdown. So
when you watch the Titans play, they are a different team with AJ Brown in the game, because that is Tannehill's go-to guy. You want to talk about a number one wide receiver? That is absolutely positively the go-to guy when he needs a play. He's going AJ Brown's way, and more times than not, Brown's right there to make that play for him. He's just a big, strong guy. I don't know if you've ever seen the picture of DK Metcalf before he gets drafted. There's a picture of him with his shirt off. He's standing next to another guy. They're both completely jacked up. And obviously DK Metcalf is just like, you're like, oh, is that a linebacker? And they're like, oh, it's a wide receiver. So you never pay attention to the other guy standing next to him that's all rocked up, about 215. You're like, oh, it's a pretty big dude, but that other guy's enormous. The guy standing next to him is Brown.
Wow.
And I wanted Pittsburgh last year to grab that kid because that dude is a man. That dude can play, and right now he doesn't get the attention that DK Metcalf does. But I'm telling you, before it's all said and done, barring any injury, AJ Brown will have a better career than DK Metcalf.
Wow, so that's a hot take, because DK Metcalf might be the best receiver of all time when he's all said and done. I mean, he's on pace right now to look like, to put up Calvin Johnson type numbers. So, and I'll say this. He'll have a better career than him. And when you look back, you'll say, wow, DK Metcalf played with Russell Wilson. Yeah.
And this guy had to play with Ryan Tannehill, who's a good quarterback, but isn't in the Russell Wilson category.
That's fair.
And he'll have a better career barring injury. That's my hot take on that real quick.
Well, that's a great hot take. And like I say, I love AJ Brown. He's an excellent red zone receiver. Always looks to get open and make contested catches in the end zone. So love Tannehill, looking for him. As far as fantasy goes, other players, you got to start Derrick Henry if you have him, and that's a no-brainer. And then Jonnu Smith, he hasn't been extremely sexy, but he's a tight end. I mean, there's only so many better options that you're going to find. So I'm starting Jonnu Smith unless I have a better option, unless it's Kelsey or Darren Waller, Mark Andrews. That's about it. Other than that, I can maybe Noah Fant, but I can throw Jonnu Smith in that top 5 conversation as well. And then for the Colts, there's not one player on the Colts that I like for fantasy. Not Phillip Rivers, not T.Y. Hilton, not Jonathan Taylor, not Naheem Hines. None. If I can steer completely clear of them, I will. Then not to say that they're not going to put up points, and someone might have a good game. Naheem Hines could likely, catch 2 touchdown passes and do a somersault flip in the ends.
Do a backflip,
yeah. But as far as consistency, being able to rely on players on the Colts offense, it just doesn't exist so far this year.
All right, so if you had to pick a winner of the game, to me, it sounds like you're saying this is a runaway victory by the Titans.
I'd say it's a convincing victory. Yeah, I'd take the Titans. I'd go, 24-17, 24-14 Titans.
24-14. So you're looking at the 6th ranked rushing offense by the Titans, and the Colts, right, I believe, are the 3rd ranked rushing defense.
But first
overall defense. But you think the Titans are going to slice them up?
Not necessarily. I think it's going to be a lot of pounding with Derrick Henry. The thing is, it's a short week, so these defenses are banged up. They just played on Sunday.
Fair enough.
So it might be a little bit of tough sledding for Derrick Henry in the first half, but that's always what happened. Look at Derrick Henry's numbers in the first half versus the second half. It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to tackle him on the first 5 plays of the game than it is after 50 plays tackling that big. So I think it's
after an hour and a half of trying to tackle a 240-pound man, you're just like, oh, please don't run this way again.
Yeah, you're just about to give up. So I think Henry will be able to dictate the game with just, and the Colts or the Titans will be able to run the clock, run the ball like that. I do think AJ Brown gets into the end zone with at least 1 reception. And like I said, I think Tannehill throws in at least 1 as well. I'll say Tannehill has two passing touchdowns.
Let me throw this out there so people can pay attention to what happens on Thursday night, and then we'll go to our next segment. But if you watch the way Henry has run, Henry did himself a tremendous disservice by throwing that stiff arm earlier in the year that everybody saw, because now nobody tackles him above the waist. Nobody runs at him that way. Nobody wants to be that guy who got posterized and embarrassed all over social media. Nobody is hitting him high anymore. And because of it, he's had one good game. He's had one good game since then, but the rest of his games have been fairly mediocre. People are hitting him in the backfield. They're hitting him low. They're coming at his legs. That stiff arm did him a bigger disservice than it did a service, actually, in my opinion.
I can understand that. I mean, I think that was against Josh Norman with the Bills.
Exactly.
But
when he threw Norman like a child.
Yes, but you said he hasn't had any good games after that. I would completely disagree because
I said I believe he's had one good game after that.
He's had a couple because he had 200 yards against Houston and two touchdowns the week after that. Game. But then in week 7 following that, he played your Pittsburgh Steelers, which is one of the toughest run defenses in the league, and he still had 75 yards and a touchdown against them. And then the week after that, he had 112 yards and a touchdown against Cincinnati. So his only bad week since then was last week against the Bears, another really tough defense. But I mean, come on, these guys, you got to be tackling Derrick Henry below the waist. They should have already known that. I mean, you can't come high on that guy. He's been stiff arming people for years. So that's a fair point, but I feel like they should have been on that already.